Alright, let's see if we're recording. Yes, we are. Alright, we're in the interactive ray tracing, Natalie's interactive ray tracing command. Part 2, graphic visualization, Natalie's interactive ray tracing of the MGED command. Command line interaction provided by the Natalie's interactive ray tracing view optical graphic visualization. MGED allow the use of visualization, Natalie's interactive ray tracing. The MGD provided the NIRT command rather than starting an interactive environment. Each invocation of the NIRT MGD Comcast one ray returns to a report, and together with the information along the MGD graphically plot the ray of the wireframe. Alright, basic usage. Most important thing to remember at the start of the Natalie's interactive ray tracing of the MGD view of the ray direction, always perpendicular with the view of the plane. With the other words, you are looking at the direction in which the ray will be captured. There are no options to choose the different direction of the MGD command line prompt. As the consequences may initially look like nothing that has happened to the MGD wireframe, the port on the command line will print out, but the user will have to change the direction with which the model is being through the MGD before graphical result will be visible. Another important point to remember: the Natalie's interactive ray tracing of the MGD view that does not specify the object augmentation. Natalie's interactive ray tracing MGD command. The supplied object will not use the object of the MGD wireframe view. For example, to load the Natalie's interactive ray tracing example, the MGD drawing center cube region set with the view direction front view looking down with the negative axis. Run the Natalie's interactive tracing MGD command, and also view the wireframe immediately after the Natalie's interactive ray tracing with the MGD. Select the MGD view window with a path 3 inches view path over the ray. View the wireframe after the change of the view of the direction showing the path of Natalie's interactive ray. Because the ray encountered only with a single region, the only visible path of the drawn with the intersecting path of the ray of the region, light blue line. Region intersection backed out first intersection of the region despite the origination point of the ray being the center of the sphere. Note, when you miss a reported Natalie's interactive ray tracing, no line is drawn with the wireframe view. Backing out with the Natalie's interactive ray tracing MGD CAD. Because Natalie's interactive ray tracing interactive mode cannot be used while the MGD with the V flag must be provided with the invocation of the National Interactive Ray Tracing MGD command back out of the origination portion. Natalie's interactive ray tracing with the MGD for comparison with the motion stroke to the left and right cubes region with the center cubes region to the general no back out control view. Displays clear left of the group right cubes region is drawn with the view, but the direction is with the Natalie's interactive retrieve. Then no B flag is run. The view of the switch to the review of the ray path. The ray did not. The view of the NIRT ray intersecting left and right cubes where ray origin of the global origin ray did the intersect with the solid area indicate with the report with only with one of the two cubes making up the region. Repeating step with the B flag with the back of the origination point to produce somewhat with different results. And notice the ray path is not drawn with over the much larger area with multiple colors. Or use the colors that significant purple segment Natalie's interactive ray path, of course, with the empty area of the gap between the two solid areas. Alright, your ray segmented color with the Natalie's interactive ray tracing and MGD with the Natalie's interactive ray using color visually represent the information seen in the text form as report with the vintage are solid alternatives blue and yellow, gap purple, blue, overlap white. Illustrate the other outputs here for the cube configurations will be examined first. All of the redrawn once the direction of the set of the X direction and Natalie's interactive ray tracing and the negative B is drawn with the view of the change to see the results. Your side view aligned with the individual arbitrary 8 cubes with a single Natalie interactive ray passing through all 3 cubes. The 3 regions presented according with the text report. The first region counted with the associated with the right cube region, the portion of the ray intersect with the region of light blue, with the second region of the center cube of the region, the intersection of the yellow ray with the now going. Note the coloring of the intersection of the left to right cube, left cube, then showing the same as shown in the right cube. It is important to realize the same intersection color of the different rays, different areas do not apply with those of the area of the same region material, nor does the different colors guarantee the continuous geometrical area for the different regions. The color swap is simply an aid of the view of the different contiguous solid regions, but they otherwise indistinguishable visually. For example, 3 cubes were union in a single region wireframe would look identical, but the region portion will be very different. In this case, you would only be the one region, only one line color would be needed to illustrate. And view of the wireframe of the arbitrary 8 cube, the combined single region of the Natalie's interactive ray tracing ray passing to the other region of the same path of the individual arbitrated 8 cubes. Alright, with the color changing mechanisms of the two previous situations have been visually identical, despite with a very different property. The other two situations result in the color change with the gaps overlap with the gap of the Natalie's interactive ray tracing. An area along the ray path after solid portion of the region is encountered before the last solid portion of the region is encountered that does not intersect with the region. Illustration casting same array that just left cube region, right cube region, and resolve the gap of the center cube region for the example in this section. As you illustrate the overlap both center cube region, all cube regions are drawn at the same time. And example, the overlap region of the Natalie's interactive ray tracing, ray mounted base Natalie's interactive ray tracing usage. In addition, you Natalie's interactive ray tracing command with the MGD command line to the mouse base trigger that you can use the MGD menu with the selecting mouse behavior. The query ray will change the behavior of the mouse selected in the view of the window. Place the mouse at some point over the model. Performing a click will capture the ray in the view of the direction center at the point under the mouse pointer rather than view center. For example, bringing up the left cube region, center right cube region to adjust with the aiding grid overlay, then enable the settings grid, draw grid spacing, adjusting settings grid spacing, auto size. With the mouse behavior, the query ray following result of the casting ray approximately 2 millimeters, 0 millimeters, 0 millimeters, 2 millimeters grid points. Note the entry points of the off the target value with the small, the significant amount, but more precise if wants to do the analysis. Snap the grid feature of this feature is enabled to selecting the modes. Snap the grid repeating above the recast. The values exact change with the correction provided with the snap to the grid mode. Configuring Natalie's interactive ray tracer with the query ray control panel. Natalie's interactive ray tracer with the MGD. Some of the settings can be changed with the graphical dialog found with the menu. MGED tool, the query ray control panel with the section described the basic option. More advanced settings will be discussed covered later. Alright, enabling disassembling mounting base of the Natalie's interactive ray casting. The earlier mouse made natural interactive ray casting enabled with the menu option query ray control panel over the menu option with toggling same behavior with the mouse activity checkbox in the left hand corner with the dial box. Select the checkbox with clicking apply with the activate mount for the trigger for the ray cap to click the mouse activity check the box. Clicking apply will restore the default behavior. Show the even, odd, and void overlap of the base name of the query effect of the echo command both mouse activity use error in advance. OK, apply, reset, and dismiss. The MGD query ray control panel with the mouse activity checkbox circled. Customize Natalie's interactive coloring MGD. Although defaults normally work well with possibly adjust the colors using the regions of overlaps, and even avoid the overlaps, and then the same MGD query ray control panel. Query ray colors circled. The odd even colors of course corresponding with the solid area region with void for the gap between the gap regions overlap and color overlapping regions. Select the color by tapping the RGB color destination direction. Use the drop down menu visually right end of the each for the entry, and it shows the control color list on the side. If the default color listing is the color tool will be used for more fine-tuned selections. And custom pseudo primitive base named the MGD the Natalie's interactive ray tracing with a pseudo primitive to describe the actual graphical lines. Alright, I'll be out in a minute. Okay. They will not be able like a normal primitive. They do not need to name the by the default. They need the string query and the color of the string. With, for example, the pseudo primitive, the listing are running Natalie's interactive ray tracing. The cube example of the gap is below. Wide frame the Natalie interactive ray multiple colors. The name of the convention also use the completely internal chat mechanism of the MG the NIRT. The example of the list command of the query ray of FFFF does not work. However, the possible of these names of the Natalie interactive ray line segment of the following the drawing. For example, to remove the purple line segment of the wireframe of the command rule, remove only the purple line segment, leave others. The query ray control panel also varies way to customize base name. Use the pseudo primitive to change the base name with the query ray leg and segment returning to Natalie is interactive ray tracing resulting in pseudo primitive names and or echoing internal Natalie interactive command. The echo command checkbox for the effects of rows allows you to enable disable the printing of the internal Natalie interactive tracing command by you beginning using MGD. And then they show the query control panel echo command checkbox. Circle, for example, the echo command select the casting ray list of the example of the previous selection's result. And the feature is prominently used for the debugging script menu outside of the MGD. Selecting graphical and textual output by default and Natalie's interactive tracing MGD output is both graphical and text-based output with a reflective drop-down menu. The right side of the effect of the row of the query array control panel will have set with both. The other option drop-down menu allow the user to specify the other graphics. No text report is printed on only text. No array path is drawn with the wireframe. The MGD query array control panel effect to drop down the menu shown. Reporting options up until this point, only the default output configuration of the National Interactive Array transfers much of the power of the National Interactive Array. Can taking out with the change of the format information supply pressures label needed to give it any purpose. How to change the reporting format. The option allows the Natalie's interactive array tracing to load customized formatting file to change the reporting style. In addition to the default style, you the father reserve the Natalie's interactive array tracing several built-in options of conventional format. National Interactive Array Tracing list, pronouns of list available of built-in formats description each for the particular format name on the left of the CVSG gap 1 etc. supplied with the augmented of the F flag. For example, the case of the data beneath an imported spreadsheet can be benefited either the compared separate common separated value output format. Individual cube regions are located in array casts, and the output of the shot command is there copied in the file. For example, the task common separated value and imported into the spreadsheet, and single copy of the file with the impractical any part of the Natalie's interactive array tracing provide interactive command destin which is specified the output with the file with the previous gave the test of the computer separated value file created easily. File contents match the previous output. To restore the output with the command line, to put destin default redirect to the standard output. When dealing space between models and sometimes advantage of the report with the Natalie's interactive array tracing output with the MGD visualization routine show if the gap between the regions power line the default text report does not include the gaps about the gaps if sometimes desirable to do exact information on the gaps, particularly with any report errors in the module gap 1 gap 2 formats. Include the information about the gaps running Natalie's interactive array tracing left and right cubes region object at the back enabled to provide as an example. Alright, handling attributed reporting. The default command line reporting format lists attributed column. The attributed may be reprinted on the does not contribute print out default output. Including attributed Natalie interactive array tracing reporting requires attributed in the question of the attributed table to the attributed command. For example, if the user wants to report, identify the red, green, blue color being used in each region. Note how the report will include the red, green, blue attribute of each region. The P flag prints the current list of the attributed included. The previous symbol of the RGB attributed. The F option can be supplied with a flush all entries and clear the table. The multiple attributes can be also be specified, and then if you wish to add yet another attribute, you can be appended with the current list with an attribute command. Provide attribute to list the startup A option when they add the arguments to the list. Note, reporting attributes running of the Natalie's interactive tracing for the MGD is more involved. This will be covered later. Or changing units, but the default in Natalie's interactive array tracing interactive command line mode reads writes all the dimension millimeters regardless of the unit of the geometry file with the configuration B of the units command, which will accept the millimeter, centimeter, millimeter, inch, foot arguments printed with the current with no arguments using center cube region as example. When running from the MGD Natalie's interactive array tracing with the current issue with the unit set with the MGD environment. Other options: silent verbose mode. Natalie's interactive array tracing support 2 behaviors associated output verbosity. The interactive command with the line environment leave the verbose mode of the default with the verbose mode prints out the header containing information about the Berlicad version number, the database name, the database title. It also provides Natalie's interactive array tracing command with the prompt label. Silent mode use the default inside of the MG command mode. It does not print any header for the prompt label. When generating the letters name and the numbers of the result, it's sometimes desirable to switch the silent mode onto the command. They accomplish supplying the option of the Natalie's interactive array tracing, similar to the MGD Windows supplying the V option, but to the full text output of the Natalie's interactive array tracing interactive mode of the MGD window. Alright, using error regions. Error regions are special status that Berlicad any default with the Natalie's interactive array tracing does not report them. Either does not have to wait. If the user wishes to have the error region reported, the unit option is supplied with the augmentation of the 1 to activate the error region report the illustrator of the center cube error region object. In the first case, the error between the cube to the left of the right cubes is reported with the gap reporting enabled with this. In the second case, the cube error region is treated as new region report line is generated instead of the gap report. The query array control also is voltage of the wave to select the use area option. Reading orientation matrix and commands. The options assembly view the manually with the command line, and the primary purpose of the MGD save view of the command is generally script that you allow when the command runs the MGD view with the repeated on the command line. By default, save the view MGD command generate the script of the rendering to the RT with the necessary with the specified the Natalie's interactive ray tracing save view options. For example, the save view in negative E native the Natalie's interactive TSV script. The typical save view of the MGD command generates script of their other options, including the important parts of the orientation matrix and eye point. When above script is run, the Natalie's interactive ray tracing report is generated with a ray cath the same direction as which would have been cath the original MGD view of the save view of the command was run. Note the azimuth elevation reported 3525 corresponding to the same of those of the value of the MGD save view was running. Scripting Natalie's interactive report is mentioned the output formatting section hand copy the Natalie's interactive ray report output the convenient way to store result, particularly in case a large number of the rays will be cast. In such cases, it's possible to automate the Natalie's interactive ray uses scripting. Our command line script the E option, the most straightforward approach for the Natalie's interactive ray. The series of the command to do the string from the command line using the E option format such string with the Natalie's interactive reading E command 1 command 2 command and the number model G object. For example, the cast ray with negative Z direction avoid interactive the mode that would work. It's important to be aware that the order of the E and the F options are the red and left to right from each of the options. Aware for the effect of the previous option using the gap format left and right cube region objects both orders and the E and F options produce different results. In the second case, the augmentation of the E will be executed with formatting change for each of the final illustration of behavior of multiple instances of the E and F options. Notice how the command is the first E option or running without a gap formation, but in the command second run with a gap formation. Script files other options you put the F option. An earlier F option was changed with the output formatting. Now there's interactive ray tracing. This is only one instance of the scripted command file for the control of the Natalie interactive ray tracing. The simple practice of applying with the command normally available during Natalie interactive ray tracing session. Instead of hand copying the output files was done with the previous example of the entire group or database more than ambitious to go over the output with the result of the several different raycasts, a single file with a manual copying script file defined as thus. Because the intent has only one of the output file, the S option is supplied with the Natalie's interactive ray tracing command. The output is recalled with the file with the output text. 4. The content of the file with the text report with the 2 rays cast in the model. The sheet of the most interesting would be above the output with the comma separated value format. Formerly the F option may be used multiple times with a single Natalie's interactive ray tracing run. As mentioned earlier, the section combination of the EF option where you're using multiple inspection, but the F option, the fashion required for the paying attention to left the right order of the computer separated value script is above the executed in case executed before the test script, the result of the cast computer separated value equivalent in preceding file. As before, the format is typically imported into the spreadsheet and then define the custom reporting format. For an example, the scripting mechanism to construct the custom tailored reporting format is specifying either the F option, keep the custom filing stored with the user direction full name that is needed to supply with like any other script analogy in reporting training ray tracing with the F and M report format and NRT model G item. Generally, simplest use this redefined file with the stating starting point. For example, you would prefer to have the company of the XY coordinate. The other wish to have the default or the default NRT for the file with the install of the BR calc system copy to the local direction default commas NRT. The fill file is edited if the space of the point strings with a comma remain in the center region of the cube. Note that the comma now present the points of the file can be saved with the reuse the Natalie interactive tracing task. If the user wishes to save the current session configuration active the command line in Natalie's interactive section, it takes away the jump the interactive command with the print out the script file with the contain with the relevant commands required to store specific configuration default with the file with the Natalie's interactive ray tracing state file. State file interactive command is used to change the name of the desired if you had in session command to alter the formatting because of the preview of the whole later use the starting point of new port forming output dump the exact link starting point. Alright, customizing report output the MGD, the query rate control panel discussed earlier has provided the reporting logic MGD with cover the Natalie's interactive ray tracing does not provide graphical aid with laying out the format. All layout magic must be defined. It's some of the same syntax already with the script files for customizing a logic MGD as done with the advanced option lower right corner of the query array control panel the following window. The MGD query array controls advanced setting dialog box. Note all the last line of the dialog which provided the place for the script command to be executed before the internal S command is run. Its function is the E option normal command, including syntax separating all the commands except for the last one, semicolon, the useful except not the possible normal command line operation illustrated in the next section. Alright, reporting encrypted to MGD advanced formatting encrypted as mentioned earlier. Reporting encrypted to Natalie's interactive ray tracing. The MGD is more involved strictly with the command line interface allowed with Natalie's interactive ray tracing. Reporting in MGD and attributes the commonly listed. The attributes can be reported in Natalie's interactive ray tracing. MGD require the custom formatting scripting. First step of the query advanced setting dialog shown with the previous section examined the Natalie's interactive ray tracing format. The command line reveal the portion formats needed. The percentage value and the attributes variable in the position supplied at the percentage of the S. Also, the attribute column header is the head. Query rate advanced setting dialog box shown of the text and value of the white headlight. The second step of the script line in the dialog box. Add the red, green, and blue with the attribute list. Recover the script line if run before the MGD send the S command. The attribute list will be updated at the time of the rate cast. The subsequent report is generated. Alright, adding commands of the script line advanced setting dialog with you with the graphical visualization problem simply with doing the actual interactive command line capable adjusting and attributed reporting of the MGDs, nothing with the help of the technique of the custom reports in MGD that includes attributes. Available information inclusion reports many of the colors where the inner user may want the inner attribute instead of the inner or additional formatting reports internal definitions of the support of the operation, most of which are not reported default format. Mistake Brave to declarity that defines the event corresponding to the various model geometric shapes encountered with Brave, which should be the trigger point event. R for the raise cap formatting so the array will print regardless where the region is encountered. H for header the first output of the array hits anything with the A at the H is output of the pace of the array. P the portion is output of the region encountered with the array. Typically this will be mode information model is reported after the footnote. Latest output statement of the array is hits the footnote lighting line after the array has completed the evaluation once per array. G of the gap outwritten in each of the gap with the array may encounter. M of the miss if the trigger misses the message with nothing that hit it makes one person and once per array. O overlap overwrites written once each of the overlap along the array. The available variables pertaining to the partitions overlap gaps other events occupying options typically using the labelable string variables listed appendix A can be used to change reported information is computer separated value output that is one of each of the uses. Alright, your summary.